What do we do at the house? What do we do with the stuff? We know our kids don't want it. We know our grandkids don't want it. And maybe we are transitioning into an easier lifestyle, whether it be in senior living or just a smaller home. And maybe it's a probate situation, and the family and loved ones are now dealing with the house and the things and all of that. What do we do at the house? Well, my guest today is Ryan Garrison, and he is a Washington based real estate investor, a licensed agent, and founder of Sound REIA, a leading investment group in Olympia, Washington. His newest project is called the Boomer Blueprint, and he and his team offer invaluable resources to seniors and their families dealing with end of life transitions, from downsizing to estate planning to avoiding the common scams that are out there attacking our seniors right now. So, without further ado, welcome to the show, Ryan Garrison. In today's world, older adults face major transitions like downsizing, relocating, or modifying their homes to age in place, all while embracing life after these changes. As a senior home advisor and seasoned realtor, Robin McCoy guides these decisions with care and thoughtful planning, helping create a vibrant future. Welcome to Relax, I Got This, Embracing Life After 60 with me, your host, Robin McCoy. All right. Well, Ryan, welcome to the show. I'm so glad to have you here all the way from Olympia, Washington.
Yeah, thank you, Robin. It's nice we can connect like this. It's some
Yeah.
things that technology is not always bad, right?
It's not. It's always great, and then until it's not, right?
Yeah.
So I met Ryan a couple of weeks ago at the Equip conference. You've heard me talk about that a couple of times on different shows. It was in Wichita. So he was probably the furthest traveler. I'm or one of them.
Yeah, I definitely had one conversation with Catherine Ambrose, changed my plans, and decided to come down to Equip instead of going to a realtor conference in Vegas.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think my liver thanks me for that too.
Probably. And probably your gambling budget thanks
Right?
you for that as well, right?
Exactly. Exactly.
So, Ryan, tell me a little bit about what you do up there in Olympia. I know you're an investor and a real estate agent. Kind of tell me a little bit about kind of what you do up there.
Sure. So I'm gonna give you I'll give you a little bit of a background on me. Maybe it'll help kind of connect the dots a little bit. Out of college, somehow I ended up in the auto industry, and I started with helping people with challenging credit situations. So I was a special finance director for an auto group. I'd grown into a pretty significant department, lots of employees, and helping lots of people every month, specializing in bankruptcies and repos and divorce and just difficult situations, right? And so that was kind of how I, spent good 15 years doing that. And in that time, I had started accumulating a few rentals and that kind of thing. I always liked real estate. And as the industry changed, as just things just changed with time, I didn't have the same flexibility in the car business that I grew up with.
Mhm.
And so I just said, you know what, I'm just going to go completely over to the real estate side. And so, keeping with my same kind of theme, helping people in difficult situations, I started focusing on more distressed type sales, problem properties, fixers, tired landlords. I got into probate, and so I became a certified probate expert. Several years ago, and going through that, and trying to help people in that situation. I got but somehow I ended up connecting with a group called Mom's House, and they uh, focused on helping people before probate while they were
Okay.
still alive. So
Imagine that.
so it was more along the lines of when seniors are getting ready to um, transition into assisted living, memory care, that kind of thing, and it just fit so perfectly with what I was trying to focus on with the probate side of things, and some of the more difficult situations and fixer uppers and hoarder houses and all that kind of stuff that I was dealing with anyway. And so I started learning a lot more about the the population shift
Yeah.
in for seniors with all the boomers and everything that are getting ready to go into assisted living. in transitioning, downsizing, all that stuff. Kind of fast forward to all that, I've always been kind of focused on helping people find the best solution in a complex situation and trying to give them options. I never want to be a one trick pony, and it doesn't interest me to try to convince everybody to list their property for sale because that's just quite honestly not always the best solution.
Right.
Um, so yeah, that's kind of how I got into the senior niche and started connecting with a lot of people in the area, joining a local senior networking group of vendors and communities and care providers and all that kind of stuff, and just trying to be a reliable, trusted resource for them.
Well, and I think, like you said, when you the just the demographic shift
Hmm.
in the baby boomers, right? We're all living longer. We're all living healthier and longer.
Hmm.
And so we're in our homes longer until we can't be. There's just so many facets, I guess is what I'm trying to get to in this as our society ages, and how can we help these people that need it, and what is the best solution for them, right? Like you said, sometimes putting a sign in the yard, remodeling the house, putting the sign in the yard, selling it in a traditional manner is not really in their best interest.
Yeah, absolutely. I Every time I go meet with a seller, I'm trying to focus just more and more on just referrals. Because I would rather help, a few high quality people that need my help than try to talk to 1,000 people that may or may not want to, get help and want to talk to 12 agents. And, I always approach it with, we can talk about, the best case scenario, the house is fixed up and, move in ready and what it would sell for. We can talk in the timeline, most importantly, that's associated with, right? And then we go down to, okay, well, what if we just listed it on the market as is? What does that look like? The timeline, the money, like that kind of thing. We talk about me partnering with them on the property. And we talk about like a cash flipper investor type sale as well. And sometimes I do more creative type deals too with the financing and whatnot. And so, um, it just really depends on the situation. But like just recently, I just last month um had one that the seller was it was a probate situation, and they had been clearing out a hoarder house for a year,
Wow.
and they'd
Wow.
spent a whole year of their life working full-time jobs, the husband and wife. And about the time they were getting done where most of the stuff was cleared out, they were just realizing that there was just more work and more work and more
every
work
time they every
on
time
the
they uncovered one thing, there was something else behind it.
Yeah, the dad thought he was a handyman, and he had, he'd put in like vinyl flooring, but it was the cheapest vinyl flooring you could ever find. And also, he had, rather than like laying it properly where it goes underneath the trim and that kind of thing, he kind of just went around the door jambs, right? Like kind of thing. So then you could see the subfloor in every single door. And if you're a retail buyer, around here we have a lot of military, so you're a young military family, that price point or that kind of thing, you just don't want a house that looks like it still needs to be finished,
Right.
right?
Right.
Like,
Right. That
and
okay,
so,
now I've
it's
got
a
to be a
cheaper
handyman.
spouse. Yeah, and so, we and the family was super happy because, they got to see the pictures too when it was done, and like, "Oh my god, it doesn't even look like the same house." And they actually that house had a garage conversion in it, and when they first moved back here with dad, they lived in that garage conversion for a couple years, and then they got to see how everything looked, and they're just like, "Oh my god, we lived there. I can't believe that." And so it's pretty cool. So I like the positive end of
Yeah.
things with that stuff.
Well,
But
and,
they
and I always say the older I get, the older my clients get, right?
Mhm.
And so we're working with their parents or their grandparents, and, and I think a lot of times people look at a house maybe like this one, right? So now we're
Mhm.
the adult children of mom and dad who are now gone, and this house is full of a lifetime
The
of
stuff.
stuff. And they first of all, I think, they just go into denial. well, we'll just leave it there and maybe
Mhm.
something else will happen to that. And then when they have to then they think they have to do it all themselves, right?
Yep.
So for a year they're working full-time jobs, they're taking care of their family, they're doing their life, and then every weekend is spent 6 year, or 6 hours every weekend for a year
Mhm.
taking stuff out that just uncovers more things that need to be done.
Oh, yeah, absolutely, and think about that family I was just telling you about, like, they had a whole year of their life they could have been not dealing with that.
Yeah.
And so that one was I'll give you just an example of one way that we put that together. They had already talked to, like, 2 or 3 other investors that were giving them, cash offers for their property and that kind of thing, and they knew that it probably wasn't the best to list it in the current wanna deal with it or couldn't deal with it anymore. They're just mentally when they say, "We're done," those are the words you hear, and you're like, "Alright, now it's time to, like, figure something out."
Yeah.
And, for that one, it was crazy. So we were able to give them more money than they were expecting with the condition of since they had jobs, they didn't need cash and the house was paid off, so there wasn't debt. So they actually carried the note on the property instead of me having to go get a hard money loan and pay, like, high interest rates and that kinda thing. They said, "Hey, look, just finish it and make sure we get this amount at the end of the day." And I didn't have to I worked with them, I didn't have to make payments, I didn't have to do anything, and so I have to do anything on the debt side because they're the lender now. And
Right.
so they got to take the burden off of them. The taxes aren't their responsibility, utilities, someone breaking into the house, a squatter, in the repairs, right? All that
Right.
stuff is now off of them. As soon as it's done, then that like weight, and they start realizing, oh man, I was really holding on to a lot here. Um, Now I don't have to worry about that,
Yeah. Well,
right?
and
And that's
people don't think it's the invisible weight, right?
mhm,
That's on them. It's like, and I'm sure by about 9 months, it's just part of their life that they do. And and it just
mhm.
becomes that burden of resentment that they have to do this. And, and I think it's either a lack of knowledge that they don't know that there's somebody like yourself or other options, or they're embarrassed by it.
I think so, and I just think we generally I think you kinda talked about it earlier. I think ostrich syndrome is real, right?
Yeah.
Like, people put their head in the sand, and they don't wanna I mean, it's same thing happens with foreclosure people. It's not always just people with parents,
Right.
right? And, it's, "Well, I'm still alive, I'm still breathing, everything's fine." Like, "Yeah, there's something that I'm gonna have to deal with someday, but not today."
Yeah.
Right?
The
And that's
someday
I think
goal.
it just keeps happening until all of a sudden you get that phone call. Mom fell,
Mhm.
she can't go home. And now we have to deal with it. And,
Yeah.
now.
Well, and that's what it is too, right? Now
Mhm,
we've become urgent, right? Mom
mhm,
fell, she can't go home. We need to do something with this house so now that we can pay for her care.
mhm.
And and then that's when people start calling, right? The randos that call and offer what sounds like a great solution, but may not be the best for them in their individual situation. Hi, I'm Robin McCoy, a Texas realtor for over 15 years. As the adult child of a senior needing to make a living change, I know firsthand the stress that can be involved in guiding our seniors and their families through the challenging decisions surrounding senior living. From adapting your current home for aging in place to finding the right senior community, I provide comprehensive support tailored to your unique needs. By offering these specialized services, I aim to make the transition to senior living as smooth as possible, providing you and your family with peace of mind and confidence in every decision. For more information, go to robinmccoysenior.solutions.com and let me take some of the stress of senior moves away. Relax. I've got this. And then that's when people start calling, right? The randos that call and offer what sounds like a great solution, but may not be the best for them in their individual situation.
Yeah, absolutely, and that's part of it too, because seniors additionally, on top of everything else and now a lot of the adult parents or adult children are seniors themselves, right?
Right.
But they get hit so much with random calls, AI calls, like, all these things, and they're the most susceptible to falling for some of that stuff.
Yeah.
And if you can get someone that you trust or someone who's you trust refers you to them, and so it's someone that there's some sort of vetting that's not just I found out on Google or they called me, so then I didn't have to like go to them or find them. I get hit up all the time. You probably do too. You're an agent, so everybody's always reaching out to agents like, "Hey, I have the solution for you. Do you, you know?" I'm like, "I don't know you. Like, why would I give you money?"
Yeah.
Like, you know what I mean? It's like,
Exactly, like, "Stop calling
yeah,
me."
right. Oh, man. But then you have to leave your phone on because you rely on it for business, right?
Right. Yeah, I
Um,
had somebody say, "Well, why do you answer unknown numbers?" I'm like, "Because that's how I make money. That's how
mhm,
get business."
mhm,
And we try and instruct our parents if we can, don't pick up the phone unless my face shows up, right? There's nobody
mhm,
that should be calling you.
mhm.
And
Yeah, absolutely.
unfortunately, they don't always adhere to that advice.
Absolutely. And yeah, I've definitely seen a lot of just crazy situations. I'm sure you have too. And um, I always just try to be I always use the term like I try to be a Swiss Army knife. So I want to be the tool for the situation that's needed. Because if I try to bring a hammer into every situation with every seller, sometimes it'll work. Sometimes the hammer's what they need, but how often do they need the tweezers or do they
Yeah.
need the screwdriver or the magnifying glass, right? And so if you can adapt and figure out really what's their problem and what's going to make their life better and then give them choices, so that now the power's in their hands. So now they can make a choice and feel that they're empowered, right? Use that word. But,
Yeah.
they're empowered to control their destiny a little bit.
Well, and because once you get to a certain age, sometimes depending on the individual, so much of their power, they're losing it. Their individuality, their
Mhm.
independence, their ability to make decisions. And so by giving some of that back and empowering them, it just makes
Mhm.
that less difficult. You talk about helping people in difficult situations and family dynamics. There's a lot that goes on between the family, right? Whether it's a probate situation, mom and dad are gone, and now there's 5 of us dealing with this,
Mhm.
and we all want our and mom and dad didn't wanna be pick favorites, so everybody's an executor on the will.
Oh, god, yeah. That just
'Cause,
sounds like hell.
I don't want anybody to think I loved, Johnny more
Mhm.
than Susie, so everybody's an
Yeah.
executor. So now you've got these dynamics that are going on, and of the 5 kids, 4 of them live in 4 different cities across the country, and just you name it, right?
Oh, yeah. Well, how many of them actually everybody says they care, everybody wants to be involved in the decision without actually having to be involved, right?
Right,
And
right.
so it's not to be I mean, look, I'm the oldest of my family and right? And I'm also smart enough to know I don't wanna be an executor, and I don't wanna be I don't wanna be the guardian. So, we had when my dad passed a couple of years ago, my brother, thank goodness, was the, executor on that, but there was a lot to clean up because, well, my dad wasn't the best with paperwork. He was a salesman for forever, and his dad was pretty good with stuff. So his dad set up a trust initially with some properties in it, and then my dad never really transferred that into his name. It just kind of like stayed in grandpa's old trust. And then it ended up,
Wow.
my brother had to clear my grandpa's estate up and my dad's at the same time. And it was a nightmare. And then, my dad was in Vegas and my brother's in, down near Portland. I'm up closer to Seattle. My other brother's in North Carolina and
Everybody's
we in
everywhere.
or South Carolina. Yeah, yeah, so it's this typical situation where you're not there. And then you have, okay, well, the brother in South Carolina, he's a recent agent and he has a lot of opinions on what he wants to have done with the house so that it can sell for top dollar. And then I do like more of the investor stuff, deal with probate stuff, that kind of thing. I want to find someone like me who can be my easy button. And you know what? We're not going to get the most money for it, but the house doesn't deserve the most money the way my dad took care of it. And I just wanna be done with it, and let's move on with our lives. Like, I just can't have the bandwidth to deal with that, you know? Every and all these relatives, they have families, kids, they got, sports, soccer games, but all the stuff, all these responsibilities at home, and now, you have that. So, everybody's got their own stuff they're dealing with,
Right.
but they need an easy button sometimes. And so that's how we, try. I don't just talk about it. That was me in my situation too.
Yeah, and well, and that's it as well, right? It sometimes you need an easy button. And, and just kinda to touch on the difficulty of having executors and families and things like that when we were doing my mom's will. My mom doesn't own a house or anything like that, but when
Mhm.
she was asking about executors, my mom's like, "Well, I think both of them should," and the attorney's like, "No, I know what you're saying, but it's
Mhm.
really easier if there's just one." And my
Right.
sister just goes, "You do it."
That's exactly what I did. Well,
My sister's like,
we
"You can do it."
oh, man. And then
And the opposite of that, then you've got my husband, 5 kids. They made 2 of them. My husband and his sister, co-executors. Well, Kelly lives in Kansas City and Chris lives in Dallas, and you're not in the same place, and sometimes you have to do things and you both have to sign a wet signature and you have to, and so,
mhm.
these are just things you don't think about, but
Yeah.
these are the things that come up in a probate situation.
Oh, for sure, for sure.
Well, and I
Um
think as a senior home coach too, we want to be able to talk with them before the probate situation, before
Mhm.
it's there, and help guide people. And like you said, the people we know are vetted, so we can refer this attorney to review your will or trust and make sure it's still the way you want it that you did 20 years ago.
Yeah, absolutely. And
Right.
part of that, you talk to them, but what do you do if they don't wanna hear your message or they do the ostrich thing? I just had this happen to me. It was actually a situation that started a year ago, and I got a lead on my website. It's like, "Buy my house now," that kind of thing.
Mhm.
I remember it vividly because it was on a Sunday, and I was like, I was home with the kids and stuff, and I'm like, "I don't wanna deal with this today. I don't wanna have to but I was like, "No, I need to remember this is my job, and I'm gonna call him on a Sunday," and I call, and I'm like, "Hey, can we set up an appointment for tomorrow, and I'll come look at the house?" And I hear the lady in the background yell, "Can he come today? Can he come today?" And just, like, pleading to 'cause I was talking to her son, who's an adult son in the situation, and, um, I was like, "Oh, okay, that sounds like they're pretty motivated to do something, and they need to do something quickly." So I'm like, "Alright, I'll be out there. I'll put my polo on instead of a tank top or something and head over." And, I get there, and the son greets me, the son's wife greets me, mom's laying on the couch non-responsive. Just, like, alive, but, like, not moving. I just remember it very vividly,
Oh
and
my gosh, how scary is that?
So I'm like, there's like, well, she needs rest right now, whatever. And I'm like, okay. So they turned me around. I took a bunch of pictures, typical, deferred maintenance, missing a whole deck on the back so that but you go out the slider, it's a cliff,
Oh my
like,
gosh.
that kind of
Yeah.
thing. And they I'm sitting down with them, and mom's on the couch, non-responsive, which is weird. And then I got, the daughter-in-law and the son are sitting in the chairs there, and like, "Well, I don't really feel comfortable doing anything, but let's with that with her in the situation, do you guys have power of attorney?" And they're like, "No, we're working on that." Like, "You need to get that. Do you have a will?" Like, do you have, like, those sort of things?
Yeah.
And so we're in the middle of this conversation. Mom sits up and she's like, "I gotta go to the hospital. I gotta go to the hospital." She's in pain, like absolute pain. Just sits up and starts talking. Like, oh my god. So obviously appointment cut short. I'm like, okay, well, let me know what happens with this. As I go to urgent
911.
care. Yeah, they go to urgent care. Turns out she had an iron deficiency or something that was and a bunch of other health stuff going on. And I I ended up, talking to the lady multiple times over the next year, like multiple times. She had this property, she had a duplex also she wanted me to like look at. So I got appointments with, the tenants and I went and checked out the duplex but every time I talked to her probably the last 6 months, always, well, I just had appointments at the doctor. I'm too tired. I don't want to talk. She's very snappy, right? Very snappy. And then all of a sudden I get an email from her son is like, "Hey, can you call my mom right now?" And so I'm like, "Okay." So something's going on. And I get a hold of the mom. I actually talked to her, and she's like, "Yeah, can you get out here? Can you get out here?" She sounds really tired. I'm like, "Okay, I'll come out." And so we set up an appointment. It was for a Monday. I think that was a Friday. And I even set up because of this whole situation. We knew she wanted to go to assisted living, but she just wouldn't pull the trigger on it for the last year. Wanted
Right.
to, but wouldn't. Then I also had a clean out person, carrying transitions person in the area meet too. So it was a triple consultation just to get everything done all at once.
Right.
Boom, boom, boom. Right. And I get there, and it's a 9 a.m. appointment, and the son greets me. He walks me upstairs, and mom's laying in bed non-responsive. And I'm like, um, well, I mean, we can talk about the house stuff, but probably not in here. Let's go downstairs. And he's like, "Oh, aren't you the hospice person?" And I'm like,
Wow.
"No, I'm the house guy that I was here a year ago. I met you then." And he's the guy's just absolutely spun out. Apparently, in the last 3 days, since about the day I talked to the mom, her health just took a dive,
Yeah.
right? And the son and the daughter-in-law, they're spinning. The daughter-in-law, I remember her face, you could just tell she has hated her life for the last year and a half
Yeah.
because their whole life they've been spending taking care of her mother-in-law
Yeah.
instead of their life, right? And so instead of getting the care and getting her into a spot, and she had the money, she had long-term care insurance,
So it
she
wasn't
had
even a
these things. She
yeah.
she had a duplex that's paid off. She had this, she could have we had
Easily.
talked, but she wouldn't do it because she was also feisty, right? And the daughter-in-law, and I was like, "Yeah, she's spunky." She's like, "Yeah, that's the nice way of talking about her." Like,
Oh,
kind of
yeah.
thing. And I'm like,
So
"Oh gosh." Well, come to say, so the hospice guy shows up. They're on the phone with the care worker, and all this stuff. And me and the other two people were there for the consult. They're like, "Well, maybe we should just leave and let's check in a few days."
yeah.
3 days later, she's dead. Right now, had I been able to do, and I look back and I reflect on myself with it. Had I been able to do a better job of talking to her about the care stuff, like I was trying to connect her, but could I have done something better? Could I have done something different? Could it, how much longer could she have hung around if she was getting the care that she
Yeah.
needed? And how much better would her life have been? I know for sure the son and the daughter-in-law's life would have been a lot better
Yeah.
had they done this sooner.
And
Because
even if I mean, and that's just it. That's the plan, right?
hmm
We all need a plan. You make the plan. Even if you put the plan on the shelf, at least have a plan that's able to be enacted when necessary. Have the
hmm
plan and then activate the plan. you know?
hmm
And she had the money. She had long-term care. She had finances. But the difficult again, it's the family situations. Mom said, "No, I'm not going," even though her health was deteriorating quickly because
yeah.
she was living alone. She probably wasn't eating right. She had iron deficiencies and things like that. So malnutrition, all these things that happen to our seniors because of a
Well,
variety of reasons.
and there's different personality types too. This lady, she had multiple rental properties. She was a landlord. She had entrepreneurial, self-employed in some ways. I don't remember if she had like other job too, but she was used to making her own decisions.
Of
She was
course.
used to calling the shots. She was used to being in control of her destiny. And you know what? I'm going out in a box pretty much
Yeah.
if I can't call my shots, I'm calling that shot. And, it's sad, but if that's the way that she wanted it, then, that's just the way it was gonna be.
That's the way it was gonna be, and that's when we talk about how we can guide and like you said, what could I have done differently that might have made things better? And maybe
Mhm.
there's nothing, right? We are
Yeah.
just the guy or the girl that was called upon to help, but if they won't accept or don't want, then there's not much we can do.
Mhm.
Um, and at the same time, there's people out there that will say, "Yes, let's go ahead and liquidate that duplex and let's get me moved and then I'll move and that are ready to do the whole transition where you've got the clean out people and you've got all of it to make it happen so everybody's life can be a little easier."
Yeah, absolutely, and that's where I kind of I'm starting my new journey too. So I am tied to a local organization called the Senior Action Network in Olympia, and part of that, I've been in it for now about a year and a half, and that's where I've actually gotten, a few referrals lately that we've we're able to help the seniors with their house and deal with that, and I really enjoy it because it's also been some people are just really grateful. Like, I like helping people when they're in there just happy about it. They're like, "Oh my god, thank you." Because it sucks when you're doing the work and then people just are angry or they're wanting to write you Google reviews or that kind of, you know what I mean?
And they're
And
just
you're
mad
like,
at you.
"No, I did everything we talked about," right?
Yeah.
But no, it's good. But so now what we're doing, part of that Senior Action Network, there's 100 and I don't know, 103 active member businesses, vendors right now. And so I got the idea of, well, let's do something where we're going to create content for every single one of those businesses. We're going to put them in a platform where they're able to kind of share their message, something that they can even post it on their website. They can go through and show examples of how they help people, and not necessarily in a selling way, but more of like an info educational way. Let people know they're out there and they exist, right? Because a lot of times the seniors just don't know, or the families don't know what is available, what are some options out there, and is it someone that I feel like I could work with or trust? 'Cause just like if you can have a completely competent agent, but you just don't vibe with them,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And so it's nice to be able to have multiple options that are in this industry that do stuff, because I'm not going to connect. I know for sure I'm not going to connect with every family or every person, but some of them seem to like me, and then I'm able to help them, and they usually like the options we can give them.
And I think that is what's important is one, like you said, one, people don't know certain things are available to them. Two, they don't
Hmm.
know the people that could then provide those things. And three, do I have options? Do
Hmm.
I need confidence in the choices that I have. I don't need a lot of choices. I think it was Buddy West at the conference that said I don't need
Hmm.
all the choices, but I need to have confidence in the choices that I do have.
Hmm.
Right? So if I've got 3 people that can help me do X, which one do I vibe with? Which one do my kids feel like we can trust? Do any of those any of those things, right? Because like you said, somebody could be perfectly competent, but there's a personality clash, right?
And or do I feel like they're in it with my best interest in mind, or just their own? Are they trying to just get a
Exactly.
commission check? Are they right? Like that? That's huge. That's
That's
huge.
that's really huge.
Um,
And I
mhm,
think, folks like yourself that are, you're heart led, right? It's like these people need my help. I have these particular skills that can help them.
yeah.
I had actually a friend, and she's like, Robin, and we may have to do something different, and it's a big long story, but I said, you know what? There's always another house. There's not another friend,
Mhm,
and there's always another house. But this couple or this person needs this, and
mhm.
so I want to make sure that they get what they need.
Yeah, absolutely. So, maybe let me ask you a question now.
Uh oh.
So 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 you're obviously in the senior home coach, and you're in this space. What do you do when are you do you also buy properties from families, or what do you do when you have a situation that maybe it's not gonna be the best situation for listing it? What happens? What's your model?
Well, we have, within my brokerage, we
Mhm,
have, I don't buy and flip. I don't do that.
mhm,
I have investors like yourself that I trust. We also have, what within our brokerage, and we have what's called a private collection. So first it goes in with those people that are within our brokerage per than our rules and all of those things,
mhm,
um, to see if there's an investor that meets the criteria or meets that there's a match.
mhm,
We also have a program called iFinder, and it's in 8 states now, that started within our brokerage where they are vetted uh, um, investors. So we know they have money. We know they are capable of closing. We know they're not underbidding, and so you get 5 offers when you submit it. So you can choose the one that works best for your situation? Is
Mhm.
it the most money? Is it we don't have to clean it out? Is it you're going to give us 2 months and a month after? What is all that the terms look like so that we can get it sold, get you moved, or get the house taken care of.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, well, I used to be with the XP. They had a similar iBuyer thing. I never had success with it, but maybe that's the one with you guys is KW's better. But one thing the families that they lose sight of too, I mean, if you have, let's say you have the adult son who's a responsible entrepreneurial guy, like maybe financially well off, he's done well. He wants every last nickel out of that house. He's seen Zillow. He knows it's worth $500,000. He just knows Zillow says it, right? And guess what? It's not. Mom didn't take care of stuff, and there's a lot of things to do. And like the very common story. Dad died a few years ago, and
Yeah,
Dad took care of the stuff, the maintenance, and that kind of thing. And
yeah,
Mom couldn't, bless her heart. She just, and even Dad, the last few years, maybe couldn't keep up with stuff, anyways. Right? Very common
right.
story. But so many of our seniors, what their life plan is go broke, then get on Medicaid, right? Because you have to the money from the house.
Yeah,
If they didn't put it into a trust 5 years prior, they didn't do some estate planning ahead of time. They have to basically spend all their money, and then now they're eligible for Medicaid until they die, right? But you have to go to a community that is going to let them have a 1, 2, or 3 year whatever spend down period. So you can't go to one that only does private pay, right? But here's the thing: for some of those families, they don't necessarily need every last nickel on the house because it's not going to make a difference. Because if they sell the house as is, even in that scenario, let's say it was 250 instead of 500, right? I don't, obviously that's just throwing round numbers around, but the 250 is going to give mom the time that she needs to be eligible for the Medicaid so she can get into a community that they choose if it's one that does that. And if she lasts that long, then there's the money gets to that, the money's gone. Now she can just ride into the sunset on the Medicaid side.
yeah.
So unless they're looking at real money that they're convinced is going to be a large inheritance or something, um, it's really the biggest thing is getting into a good care situation.
Well, because yeah, if mom and or dad are still, you know, here,
Mhm,
the goal should be how do we take care of mom and dad for the longest period possible?
mhm,
And, and sometimes the older adult, the senior, the mom and dad, the grandma and grandpa don't think about it that way. I bought this house, I'm going to die in this house, and then the kids can figure it out after that.
Be the leader you know you can be. Build your professional network and access education that takes you where you want to go. We are women of all ages and backgrounds. You deserve national recognition and opportunities to build relationships with people you want to work and grow with. Hit the ground running with the Charisma chapter of the American Business Women's Association. Meetings each month from 6 to 8:30 p.m. on the fourth Tuesday in Farmers Branch, Texas, and online. Come with us. Experience ABWA for yourself. Go to charisma.abwa.org to learn more.
The older adult, the senior, the mom and dad, the grandma and grandpa don't think about it that way. I bought this house, I'm going to die in this house, and then the kids can figure it out after that. Well, unfortunately, not everybody gets to stay in their house because they can't.
I just actually heard a quote, and it was perfect. It was, the every senior says, "I don't wanna be a burden to my kids," right? Every single one of them.
Mhm.
Then they say, "Okay, well, what's your plan?" "Well, I'm gonna age in place," right? I'm just gonna get old in my house until I die. Well, guess what? That is being a burden to your kids. I'm gonna take the sugar coating right off of that. It's being a burden to your kids. If you
Yeah,
don't get rid of the stuff, I think, what do they call it? Swedish death cleaning. Um, where in Sweden, I look it up. It's, there's a process, and it's like minimalist, right?
yeah,
And as they age, they just are getting rid of stuff, and there's not that much stuff. Americans are very different.
yeah. We keep getting
Especially
more
the boomer
stuff the older we
the
get.
boomer generation. They're coming, you think about just the demographics of it. Maybe came after the war, after things were a little bit, scarcer, right? And the kind of the way they came up, and more materialistic. They get a good deal, they can't pass it up. There's things like that just accumulation. And then that's why storage containers are so big here. Like, the mini storage and all that stuff. No other country has that. Like,
Yeah.
it's here.
Yeah. George Carlin did a whole routine about how we have a house and we fill that house, we buy a bigger house for our stuff. It's for your
Hmm.
stuff. And then we go buy a garage down the street to put more of our stuff in. And it's
Hmm.
just all this stuff. And you're right, but it's a lot of it is an age thing, right? Kids today don't want your mom's china. They don't want your grandmother's china. They don't want any of that. They don't want the big giant furniture and the china cabinets and all those things. And yet sometimes our older folks just say, "Well, my kids may want that. I'm
Yeah,
keeping it
absolutely. Well,
because my kids may want that."
and
They
they don't
don't.
want it. No,
And they'll even tell you they don't want it.
yeah, yeah. Oh, my mother-in-law is constantly dropping stuff on our porch that she's cleaned, and we're like, "We don't want it." But she's like, "Well, you can have it now or you can have it when we die." And so
So if it's yours now, can I just move it on through the back door
yeah.
and it goes on the truck?
Uh-huh. Yeah, that's the conversation. But no, but this is something recently I learned too. It's just I didn't think about it. The China. Why is the China so important to people of a certain age? It's not the China. What did we do? What did those generations do? They went to the dining room.
Mhm.
They Thanksgiving, Christmas, all these things. These are all the whole family, the everybody's together, the memories, like all of that. And now it's not as much, right?
Yeah,
Like there's not that traditional, right? We're connected on social media. We got this, we got, we'll go do trips. We have memories. We
yeah.
have memories with our families, but it's not the
Then
same because it's not that not connected technology thing. That's when the family got together.
yeah. And it's when grandma and grandpa got married, they got that china, and every time we went to, we had
Mhm.
Thanksgiving, we had Christmas and Easter at the table with those dishes. I mean, and they
Mhm.
only brought them out at that time,
Yeah.
right? You only brought it out. So,
I have my grandma's china. I
do
do.
you?
I have a spot, yeah. Yeah, but it's actually so, because there's so many different, like, you think about, like, just all the different weird designs that a lot of stuff was on old stuff. It's very simple, very clean, very, there's, like,
Yeah.
gold rim, but it's, like, white and, like, things, so it's like, "Alright, we can make it work, we'll figure it out," but then you're like, "Ah, you had to wash it by hand, you got, like, I don't know, I just wanna throw
Well,
it in the dishwasher," right?
that's it.
Yeah.
Nobody wants to wash it all by hand. Nobody wants to,
I just want
you know.
I want the nice paper plates. I don't
Yeah.
want the right? So
That's funny. So you did mention something. You've started recording a new project called the Boomer Blueprint. What is that?
yeah, well, I was I was brainstorming, trying to come up with different names. The same concept I kind of alluded to earlier, but we're trying to give the boomer generation um, an easier path to figuring out their options, what they might need to do. And the plan here is, going through even from an estate planning standpoint, from a clean out standpoint, downsizing, assisted living, and then also not just the boomers themselves, but for the kids that are dealing with the boomers that are getting older. And I thought the name sounded kind of fun, and I liked the blueprint aspect of it, is the planning that goes into it and what is there for that family. And and so that's, kicking around a lot of different ideas and being able to provide resources and be an authority for that generation and niche. I think doing things similar to your podcast and what you're doing. And I don't know, I have a hard time with calling it a podcast, but it's more, content creation and being creating something that's valuable and educational for people.
Yeah.
If it's, and I guess that's probably called a podcast, but
It
I
is a podcast, but you can
yeah,
call it
kind of
whatever
thing.
you want because
But
it's yours.
yeah, yeah. And we'll try to put it on YouTube and whatnot too. But we're kind of in the creation. I have a list of guests. I have putting the things in place that you have to do that go with that, right? You have,
Yeah.
because it's not just hitting record. There's a little bit more to it. Getting the proper account set up, getting the website URLs, getting the web forms, getting the reminders, the automation, so that your guests don't forget about it. Getting your right, there's different things that go into it, and getting those dialed in, but still wanting to start producing it before everything's perfect, because it's not going to be perfect, right?
Yeah, it's not you'll never get it done if you just wait for everything to be perfect, and you'll make some mistakes and then you go fix that and keep moving forward, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So we're under construction with some of our stuff, like our website. First time in my life I ever paid for a premium URL that someone was like auctioning or off. But once I kind of narrowed it down, I'm like, nope, I like that name. I can buy it. It's $300. Damn it. And I and so yeah, I was like, all right, I'm doing that. So I have Boomer Blueprint and theboomerblueprint.com, and that's just what we're rolling with. And so
Well,
now
that's
we're
good.
working on,
I
but we
like
make,
it. I
yeah,
like
appreciate it. Appreciate it. Yeah, I liked it when, and Catherine was the one, because I threw a bunch of different things at her, and I was like, I really like this one, but I don't own it, and I have to go buy it. And she's like, how much is it? I said, $300. She's like, just do it. That's better. Like, and so that's what we did.
It's not $3,000, it's
Yeah,
$300.
right.
Goodbye.
It just hurt me, because I'm I'm
You're
always looking
thrifty.
for a deal, and it wasn't a deal. Like,
All right. Well, Ryan, what as we wrap up, what is one thing that maybe we didn't touch on that you would like to get across to the folks that may be listening today?
I would say, even if you are not ready to make a decision for your future living situation yet, even if you're not ready to make that decision with your family, um, it's worthwhile to take the time to have a conversation with someone that can at least give you some ideas that maybe you haven't thought about, that can help walk you through the process, so that you know what it's really looking like, and can maybe start building that plan. And around here they actually have a thing called, 5 wishes, and it's like a it's a is I actually just learned about this not that long ago, and it's not a will, but it asks a lot of the really important questions that your family or the people around you, the care providers, need to know. Like, do you want, do you want us to help you, with your food? Do you want us to help? What kind of things do you like what if you lose your speech, and you just don't like that sort of thing, right? Like, what are your plans? Just the summary, not the big will thing, right?
Yeah.
What would you
Yeah.
like us to do with you? And just things like that. There's ways that you can,
Conversation starters.
yeah,
Conversation
absolutely,
starters.
plan ahead. Give us an idea, because I don't the things I pick to put, for clothes, or the things we pick for the music, or do you want music? Do you want Bible verses around? Do you want, like, all these different things, like,
Yeah.
some people are very important. Some things are very important to people.
Yep. Well, that's awesome. Well, Ryan, thank you so much for spending some time here and sharing your insights and your knowledge and all that good stuff. We're gonna put all of your contact information in with the show notes. So if anybody wants to reach out to Ryan, ask any questions, get any direction, I'm sure he's happy to take that call. And thanks again.
Absolutely, Robin. Thank you. I appreciate it.
And thank you for tuning in to another episode of Relax I Got This, Embracing Life After 60. Make sure you hit the subscribe button, and we'll see you next time. Thanks.
Thanks for joining us for Relax I Got This with Texas Realtor Robin McCoy. Check out all the show notes for contact information on Robin and her guests, and to access your free buyer and seller guides. Also, don't forget to hit that subscribe button so you never miss a conversation. Thanks again, and we'll see you next time on Relax I Got This with Robin McCoy.